it's Natasha and thank you so much for joining me today. Today is a fun one because I purchased this set of dies. These are the Winter Borders cutting dies from Spellbinders, and there are a whole lot of different ones in this set. I'll turn it over in just a second and you can have a look, but I want to show you all the ways, lots and lots of ways, that you are able to use these in everyday card making. I mean, I guess it says winter borders because there's one with snowflakes. That's probably the least likely one I am likely to use, but the rest of them are stunning and I think can be used all the time. So we're going to start off quite simple and then do a few different versions. Well, this isn't super simple actually. There's a little bit to it, but it was really fun. And we are going to start off by using this gorgeous leaf kind of border die. Now this only sort of partially die cuts. However, if you wanted to, it does have all the bits where you could snip this off and make this an individual die. Now I have put this on the edge of my card base. Make sure that you flatten your card out as it goes through your machine so that you don't cut both sides, unless that's what you're going for, and that could be cool too. And in fact, that's a whole nother card idea. But for now, I'm just going to pick out all these little bits. They fall out really nicely. This leaves a delicate looking but kind of strong enough edge to our card base, and I really like this. It provides a whole lot of detail and it was so simple. So as I said, you can see all the bits where you could snip this off and make this an individual die, which I like too because I like having multiple uses for all of my dies. Now my thought process should I say, was that I was going to add this strip down the middle, and then I want to add a few more dies to the left of it, except for these ones do they just leave an impression. What do you call it when they cut into it to leave the pattern, but they don't necessarily cut out anything? So these, I am just going to pop two of them together, and I think the best way for me to get these nice and even, or as even as I could without measuring, was for me to pop the two individual ones together with a little bit of mint tape. So this is just a low tack tape, and I popped a couple in the top and the bottom so that they stayed nice and even. And then, as I said, I was going to die cut one of those individual strips, and then I was going to glue it on there individually. However, when they came out, I kind of liked them just as is. So, spoiler alert, I end up not doing that. But you can see this gorgeous detail that these leave. And again, just extra detail. And it's not enough to kind of weaken the card, but it just leaves that extra little bit of detail, which I love. Now, working on the rest of it. One of my very kind subscribers, I'm not going to name them because I'm not sure if they want to be named, but just know that if you sent this to me, this makes my heart so happy. The Teal and Mango 49 in Market rub-on set, which I absolutely love. Now these are stunning. I decided to use quite a few of these on today's project, so I'm really just using these dies and the rub-ons, and I just love the results. Now, as I said, someone sent these to me, just a subscriber, and there was a few little gifts in the parcel, and it absolutely made my week. This was just so generous because she had thought so carefully about the things that she chose, and I appreciate it. So just know that sometimes I don't have ways of contacting you back, and I'm not sure if you would like your name mentioned sometimes, and I never want to put your name out there if it's not your sort of thing, and so I just appreciate it so much. Just know that I appreciate it, and if you include an email address, that's the fastest way that I can flick you an email when I receive your cards or your parcels in the mail and let you know that they arrived safe and sound, and that I appreciate them. So anyhow, thank you so much, and I'm going to actually pop some of the sentiments in this one. I'm going to do a little bit of piecing together because this card was for a friend of mine for a specific occasion, and I just wanted to say on the front, to the best day ever. And all of the words were there that I could cut out these and do them individually and pop these on the front. As I said, this card is fairly simple. It's just a little bit of die cutting and then a few rub-ons, and this one just really made me happy. It didn't take me long at all to do. I love the gorgeous teals and oranges together, and we are going to create some more cards as well to give you more ideas how to use this border set. Now, to me, this looked a little bit empty, but if you take a few of these little sequins, now they're still rub-on sequins, which I love, so no glue, no nothing like that. The thing I love about these rub-ons is that they don't have the shine to them, so you can't kind of see the border around them when you pop them down. There's none of that, which I absolutely love, and These have lasted so well. I've had some of these in my stash, a couple of cards that I chose to keep for almost like a year now, and there is no sign of wear, of you know, being able to tell the difference between where the rub-on ends and starts, which I absolutely love. Now, on to the next card. I'm creating a background. This has got Tumbled Glass Distress Oxide ink, Cracked Pistachio, and then I think it is Mermaid Lagoon up the top or the bottom. This one was a little bit dark. I actually thought, have I chosen a colour that was a little bit dark for the bottom in contrast to the other two colours? But with a little bit of ink blending, I think this is going to work out just fine. I am using some Tim Holtz watercolor paper because that is a life hack or a card making hack. If you find blending tricky, then use some of the Tim Holtz watercolor paper, and I suspect many watercolor papers have the same coating or a similar coating. Don't quote me, but I use the Tim Holtz one when I want a beautiful blend. This helps me out a long way. I use the domed foam blenders because I find them the easiest for blending. Brushes and I don't tend to get along together, although I think I'm in the minority by far with that one. Now, this is the Simon Says Stamp Sentiments strips, and of course these just make life a whole lot easier. I've been leaning towards these recently. I think they are, for me, I found them to be worth the money. They cost less than buying stamp sets, and there is multiples of each in each pack. I've been really enjoying them. Now, for this card here, I've taken a little bit of glue. This is the multi-medium in the matte finish, the Ranger multi-medium, and I've just popped it down onto my scrap piece of paper, and I'm going to cut some of these in half. Now, this is the one of the dies from the border set, and I just die cut a lot of them, and they were really, really easy. I just got to give them a flick on the edge of my rubbish bin, and all the pieces came out, so that made me super happy, and that's why I chose to keep going and make lots of them. Now, all I've done is kind of roughly cut these in half here, and I think at the moment I'm adjusting my music because often when I'm card making, I am listening to music or singing along, and that's probably a good thing that I managed to take the audio from these. Otherwise, I'm sure you'd hear me singing or something. So when I sort of look like I'm absent-mindedly doing something, it's usually because I am adjusting my music or changing something off the screen. Anyhow, so I am going to pop these down. I'm just using a makeup sponge to pop some glue onto the back of these. This works really well for me for intricate die cuts, and it's just sort of a fail-proof method. I know that they're not going to come off or go anywhere. I'm making these all different lengths because I just want to kind of spread where your eye moves throughout the page. So I'm going to make some short, some longer, and then I want to have the birthday wishes sentiment here. But I think just having it by itself, which was my original plan, looked a little bit out of place. So I'm actually going to trim it and then pop it on top of one of the strips, and that way it kind of keeps everything even. It keeps everything uniform and kind of looking all the same. I like that. So I'm going to do the same. This one I can just put glue on the back because it's nice and hidden behind our big sentiment. And at the moment, I mean, I could definitely leave this as is, just with the strips, and I think this looks really nice adding it onto a background, but I'm going to do something at the end which just finishes off these cards really nicely. Now, I do think in card making it is the finishing touches sometimes, and it's worth investing in some of those little things. Often they are relatively cheap, like a bottle of Nouveau Drops or something like that, for $2 or $3, even if you just invest in a couple of the colors. I've done videos on this before and my recommendations on a few of the things that you can do. If you'd like a new and updated one of kind of little finishing touches, things that I would recommend, then let me know, and I can probably make a video on that too. But see, this looks pretty nice. You put it onto the white background and I think it looks good, but I'm actually going to go ahead and add some little light blue enamel dots. Now, they're kind of actually a turquoisey kind of color, and I'm not sure why I didn't show the packet on screen, but there is lots of these. It's just all small ones. I did think I might put these blue ones on, but I changed my mind and went with the same color throughout the whole thing. I thought I was going to match it to the ink blending in the background, but I changed my mind. And even just this small detail, I think, takes it to the next level. So I really, really like this look. Very, very simple to add these finishing little details, but I think this one is simple and quick and easy to create, and you could use whichever background you wanted to. It could get far more complex than this, or one that had been sitting in your stash for ages. Now, I think this is going to be my favorite card, my favorite of all. I love this one. Now, I'm taking this big, gorgeous little flower arrangement here, this flower bunch, and I'm going to cut just around it. This is what I prefer to do because I would hate to accidentally rub on a partial part of another image and kind of ruin that image. So I choose to cut out my images to make sure that I'm only going to get the one that I want where I want it. So I'm starting off here. I have my card base to the left and then my card front to the right. So a card front is just a piece of cardstock. At the moment it measures 4 1/4 by 5.5 inches. I will cut it down just a little bit in a minute though. Now I'm keeping this relatively centered for this little technique that we're going to be doing on this one. So I use my little rubbing tool, make sure that all of it is down, and then I usually start at the top, peel slowly so that I can see if any of the bits need a little extra bit of rubbing, but I absolutely love this gorgeous arrangement. Now this is where it gets fun. I'm going to bring in my trimmer, and this mainly just gives me a straight line to begin working from. So I'm going about 2/3 or so of the way to the left, or 1/3 in from the left of my page, and then I'm going to fussy cut whilst leaving a little border, a little white border around that image. Now this is kind of going to be hanging off the edge, but we are going to do something really cool with those border dies, and as I said, this was my favorite by far, so I think you've done well. If you're still hanging around at this part of the video, I think it's going to be worth it. And of course, you could do this with any stamps, any images. It doesn't have to be the rub-ons at all, but I do find rub-ons so versatile, and I love the 49 and Market ones. They don't send me any for free. They've never given me anything for free. I'm not just advertising this. I just genuinely love them. I purchase all of these except for this pack, which admittedly was gifted to me by one of my subscribers, a lovely lady who watches this channel. So apart from that, I have not been gifted any of these at all. And I suspect that no one from 49 Market would even know that I use them, but I do love them nonetheless, and so that is why I have a few packs of them now. Now this one here, so you can see how this is kind of going to sit on my card base. I've got a little border around the outside, and I kind of want to carry that on, so I'm going to show you this little cool trick. First of all, I saw this stitching detail. This just looks like kind of like messy stitching, I guess, that are some of the rub-ons, and I thought these just create a perfect gorgeous border. So I'm going to pop some of these on and rub them around the outsides. This one here is a little bit long, so I cut a tiny bit off the edge, and then rather than even waste that tiny little bit, I'm going to add that on to that big long one, because waste not, want not, we may as well use them. So I just pop that bit down there now, and I think that creates just an extra little bit of faux stitching. I like that. Now this is the fun part. I'm going to turn this over, add some adhesive to the back here, mainly to this kind of right hand side, and we are going to use those winter border strips again and create the rest of our kind of card front. You'll see in just a minute. This is all I had left over. These were the leftovers, so I was making sure to use every bit that I had taken the time and effort to die cut. So I've taken the release paper off that double-sided tape now. You can see that, and I'm just going to line these up. I want these to be longer than I need now, as in further wider than I need, sorry. So I'm going to line these up so that all of the pattern kind of matches. You absolutely don't have to do that at all, so I want all of the circles to kind of make the pattern right. So if I turn this one around, I was just trying to figure out which circles would line up, but if I just try and find another one, and you can see this one's going to line up, and then from there it makes it much easier. I know what I'm doing now. I'm going to follow the pattern, and some of these are longer, some of them are shorter. As I said, these were just literally things that I had cut off from other projects or the ones that we had just done, so I was going to use these up because I'd taken the time to die cut them. So I'm going to go right down to the very bottom, and then instead of using my sliding trimmer to trim these all off, I want to make this like a card front is normally. So again, I'm going for, I think this measures 3 3/4 by 5 inches. I put some release paper on there, some double-sided tape on there just to hold everything down, and then I use my Tim Holtz trimmer. This one is going to be much better than the sliding trimmers for just cutting nice straight lines and coming straight down on top of this, the little images there, the die cuts. So when I turn this over, to me this looks absolutely gorgeous. I love how the panel is kind of finished off with that decorative edge. So I absolutely love this. Now I do want to keep my cards pretty plain and simple. You could put something behind this, but I decided to, instead of putting something behind it, just lift it up a little bit with foam tape, and that way it is going to stand off from the background, because of course the background is white, so it's white on white. And I think this makes it stand out just enough. I love this extra gorgeous detail, and actually I loved it so much that I decided not to add a sentiment to this one at all. I think it looked just stunning. This is my favorite one of all three. So I hope that I have given you some ideas on how to use these border dies. Of course, if you already have border dies in your stash, those are going to be lovely too. I always feel like when I make an investment in a product, and let's face it, all of the products in card making can get really pricey. So we have to be picky and choosy, and that is me too. So I like to get good value for money and show you lots of ways that we can kind of use these border dies in different ways than we perhaps originally thought. Now, of course, for this one, you could just use a background die. If you have an entire background die, you could use that instead. But in case you just have the strips, we can make that work too. Of course, I will have all the products linked down below that we've used in today's video. I will also have links to the Buy Me a Coffee in case you would like to help out and support my channel. I will also have a link to our Facebook group in case you want to join that and share your makes. Other than that, I'll see you in the next video. Thanks, bye!